Hello and good morning, Sodor. This is Johnny Hasten of Awdry FM, and I'd like to begin by saying how excited we are at the studio for summer. Now, reports have come in that this year will be a scorcher, and a lot of people have been travelling to the coast all over the island. However, the west coast have been seeing a lot more people in recent weeks, and I can see why. Although in the coming days, storms from the north will be hitting our fair island. Hear all about it from our friends at Wellsworth Wireless with Richie Malone. Now we're going to play one of this decade's latest hits, Hey Jude by the Beatles, and afterwards me and my co-host Tamara O'Gar will bring in a special guest. Call us now with your predictions, and at 12 PM we will reveal who it is. All that and more coming up.
It had been a year since Oliver had pulled apart Scruffy, and Duck and Oliver had made the past year of running their branch the best of their lives. Sometimes both didn't see eye to eye, but they were still friends either way. But with the ever-growing demand of people travelling to the west coast of the island, it was proving too much for the Great Western engines to handle, and Donald and Douglas had been assigned to more parts of the island, which made things a bit more harder.
It took them long enough to get me back into the right livery. But I've been worked that much. I can't tell if I'm coming or going.
Believe me, running a branch line has never been easy, and I had to help from the likes of panniers such as yourself and prairies.
They would be the exact thing we need here. They can handle quite a lot and not break a, sweat.
Then you'd be surprised to find out the news I have for you.
Good evening, sir. What brings you up here?
With Donald and Douglas being rather stretched thin, and you two have to run the branch on a thread, I've been informed by the manager of the works that the engine I wanted to work with the pair of you will be ready in 2 days at the latest.
What are they, sir?
It's not like Awdry can work on this line, let alone Castle, so that rules out a 2800. Maybe a taffy?
I did consider one, but I ended up with a prairie.
A large prairie. That's excellent, sir.
Not a large prairie, Duck. A small one.
Oh.
That's still a good choice, sir. I worked alongside a few of them over the years, but I remember one specifically back in the 40s. Lovely chap he was. Haven't heard from him since.
And this one seems to be as well. I hope you all get along. Now, Duck, I want you to be at Tidmouth Yards tomorrow at 8 to bring some supplies for Callan.
Yes, sir. Of course, sir. A small prairie. Rather pointless.
What is the matter with you? She's trying to help us out.
We need assistance not to be stretched thin. They're 4 MTs.
So, with the large prairies and you aren't fussing about that? I know you at this point, Duck. What's the real reason?
There's no reason, Oliver. And no more about this matter tonight.
Oliver was confused. He couldn't think as to why Duck would be so hostile to someone he hadn't even met yet, and from the Great Western at that. The next morning, Duck scurried off to Tidmouth without saying a word to Oliver. Morning, Duck. The train's on track 3.
Cheers.
Everything alright, lad? You seem a bit off this morning.
I'm fine, Jinty.
Alright. No need to get your couplings in a twist. He definitely woke up on the wrong side of the shed this morning.
Well then, Duck, how you done then?
Just as well as normal.
Did you ever go Oliver last night?
What are you on about?
Oliver told us what you said last night, and he's worried. And so are we. Hey, when's the last time you...
Listen, I'm fine. Now stop bombarding me.
Listen, bagpipes.
The twins arrived at Tidmouth, where they dropped off their goods train and saw a very worried-looking Jinty who locked eyes with the twins, and they immediately knew that something was wrong. Oliver soon arrived and went over to the sheds to see Donald, Douglas and Jinty waiting for him.
It didn't go well, I take it?
Not at all.
Even when I saw him this morning, he was very off. But, anyways, I'll let you lot talk about this. I need to get back to work anyways. Another train is expected any minute.
Later, Jinty. Now, What are we meant to do about this?
They were suddenly interrupted by the noise of a goods train arriving from Barrow, and the three were surprised. There, at the front of the train, and behind the engine, was a Great Western 4575 small prairie. Oliver's face lit up as he noticed the number.
5540? Nolan?
The small prairie, who was taken by surprise, glanced over to the depot and was almost as ecstatic as Oliver.
Oliver, what on earth?
Nolan moved over to the shed, and Donald and Douglas eyed the tank engine closely, noticing something in particular.
It's been years. How did you end up in this neck of the woods?
It's a rather long story, truthfully. I can tell you all about it later.
Ah, you're early.
Indeed, Sir Topham. Passed all my tests with no issue.
Splendid. Now, as Oliver here is due out in the next few minutes, I trust that you will be joining him on his trip to Awdry.
Yes, sir. Of course, sir.
The Fat Controller smiled and walked away as Nolan went over to the water tower. Donald and Douglas looked at each other, knowing that now was the time to talk.
Oliver? Before you leave, can we talk to you first, mate?
Of course. What about?
Nolan, we noticed that you has the same sort of gear at the back of your cab. And we vaguely remember what you said it was.
What? My auto gear?
Hey, the old Western tank engines have it.
No, not at all. Why'd you ask?
Well, could you at least sort of know through what classes do? Well, that was at least in BR's ownership.
Oh, my class, 5400, 6400, and 7400 panniers, and a few small prairies like Nolan. But why? There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
Not at all. What we're telling us is that Tuck's class, the 5700s, were never fitted with it, right?
Of course not. They were used more for shunting at first, before being used on passenger work. You don't think he feels threatened, do you?
Admittedly, I can understand why. He has auto coaches and he's an auto fitted, so if he sees young Nolan, I don't see this going well.
Oliver thought for a moment and was now worried for not only Doc, but Nolan as well. Donald and Douglas promised to try and keep the peace, but with their busy roster, it might be easier said than done.
I got the chance to shortly work close to the coast of Wales before being withdrawn.
Was it anything like this?
No, this was better.
They carried on until they reached Alsborough, where Oliver took Nolan to meet the miniature engines.
Hello there. Here comes the neighbourhood.
Morning, Oliver. Good run this morning.
Indeed. By the way, lads, this is Nolan, our new addition to the branch line.
You'll get to know all of us as time goes on, I'm sure.
I must say though, you're not what I expected here. I'm not saying anything bad by that. It's just I've only ever seen narrow gauge and never miniature.
Oh, don't worry. We hear this sort of thing all the time.
Oh, Oliver, is there a ballast train due out soon?
You should know the timetable, Frank.
Well, excuse me for not reading it.
Stow it, you two. Now then, who's to take the train then?
Nolan could...
I'll do it.
That's not very nice.
Are you sure, Doc? This train looks rather heavy. It's more of a train for Donald or Doug.
I might as well, considering now that I'll be degraded to. Besides, it wouldn't be the Great Western way if I didn't try.
Doc, I really must implore that Nolan takes it.
No, Oliver, I'll do it. I might as well take whatever remains of work I have left.
Those words set the yards in silence, as Duck cobbled up to the train and was given the right of way as he stormed out of the yard. Oliver and the miniature engines were worried, but Nolan was confused.
What's up with him?
You see those coaches over there?
The ortho coaches?
Yeah, they're Duck's, Alice and Mirabelle. And he's worried that you'll take them away.
What? Oliver, I would never want to take over someone else's work. Besides, I was told I would be taking over the twins' duties, not anyone else's.
I just realised this myself. But it's not because Duck isn't auto-fitted, and that is rather inconvenient for him.
Nolan saw how concerned Oliver was, and knew that he was worried about his friend.
Looks like there's a spring shower coming.
Sadly, Mike was wrong. It was more of a storm after a few minutes, which meant that the rails were going to become slippery. Duck had just passed through Callan when it began chucking it down.
Be careful with the hill outside of Hall Trough.
Rubbish. My Sanders will take care of it.
Duck stubbornly gathered up speed as he passed along the coast and was approaching towards Halltrot, but the ballast truck saw this as a chance for trouble.
When we reach the top.
They muttered, and Duck was more focused on getting over the hill than anything. He began to pick up speed as he passed through the station.
Careful, Duck. They can act up right now. And also, we don't want that.
Nor do I have anything to say about it.
But Duck was becoming a mix of rather cocky and stubborn. He hit the top with no issue, but that wasn't the end of it.
On! Go!
No, fast. Oh, no, you don't.
But with the weight of the heavy train and the damp rails, it wasn't enough. Duck slipped as the trucks pushed him down the gradient and were cackling behind him. Duck sat on his side, with half of his wagon smashed and contents spurred out all over the place. Donald arrived with a crane, and Nolan came to take away what remained of the train.
Not exactly the Great Western Way, is this?
Duck seethed with rage as Nolan dragged him towards Callan. He soon subsided when the Fat Controller arrived, and he wasn't pleased either.
This is not something I would have expected from you, Duck. I'm also aware of what was said after I left yesterday, mainly because I heard it all. I'm sending you straight to the works at once, and when you come back, you'll be taking over the bulk of the goods work. That should keep you busy.
And even though he did feel rather silly, Duck knew that the Fat Controller was right. Oliver had been watching from the sidings, listening. He knew that things were going to become rather concerning, but that's another story.